Good morning and hello everyone. Myself Priyank and today I'm going to explain on the topic exploratory data analysis. So let's start with the basics first. What is exploratory data analysis or EDA? So EDA, also called as exploratory data analysis, it refers to the critical process of performing initial investigation on the data so as to discover different patterns and to spot anomalies, to test hypotheses and to check assumptions with the help of summary status and graph stats. So why do we use EDA? So EDA is basically an approach for data analysis that employs a variety of techniques. So what techniques it implies? Like it implies a variety of technique to find out maximum insight into a data set in order to uncover underlying structure, extract important variables, detect outliers and anomalies. It helps us to test underlying assumptions, develop Poisson models, develop optimal factor settings, and so on. So, how do you implement this EDA? Most of the EDA techniques are graphical in nature with a few technicalities. But the reason for the heavy reliance on graphics when it comes to EDA is because it entices the data to its structural secrets and it is always ready to gain some new and unsuspected insight into the data. So the particular graphing techniques which are employed in EDA are often quite simple, consisting of various techniques like we can plot the raw data using graphs such as data traces, histograms, probability plots, lag plots. We can plot simple statistics using mean plots, standard deviation plots, box plots, then positioning such plots so as to maximize our natural pattern recognition abilities such as multiple plots per. So, what is the difference between confirmatory data analysis and exploratory data analysis? So, in the confirmatory data analysis, what it does is first test a hypothesis and then settles all the questions regarding it. In exploratory data analysis, what happens is it first finds a good description that best fits the question, and then it raises all the new questions revealing patterns. So, as we all know, like understanding the raw data is really hard. So, EDA provides such a way in order to make data easier for us to understand. Example of one such thing is like Lord Rayleigh's research on the weight of nitrogen. What he does that time was he used a chemical compound to isolate a fixed amount of nitrogen and then he repeated this experiment 15 times in order to get all the results. So, what are the techniques of EDA in data science? First one is univariate non-graphical. What happens in unvariate non-graphical? The data features a single variable and the EDA is done in mostly tabular form. For example, creating summary statistics. These are non-graphical analyses which give us how our data can be skewed or which is the dominant value in our data of the variable. Un- Unvariate graphical. So, in this EDA, it involves graphical tools like bar charts and histograms to get a quick view of how variable properties are stacked against each other, whether there is a relationship between these products or not. Sorry. So, multivariate non-graphical. So, there are some non-graphical methods like crosstab which are used to depict the relationship between two or more variables. Statistical values like correlation coefficient indicate if there are possible relationship in the measure of their correlation. Multivariate graphical. So it is a graphical representation always gives you a better understanding of the relationship especially among various multiple variables. Interpreting EDA. So how can one find out or implementing EDA? First has to summarize the results. Then he gotta discover unanticipated results, which means all the new line of research or experiment will be added to the code. The the quality assurance and quality check will be done. Then you gotta generate your hypothesis, check the assumptions related to it, address all the anomalies, not or really come to a definitive conclusion. That's how you can interpret the EDA in any file. Tools. So, what are the most basic software tools which can be used to perform this EDA? Some of them are like Python and R, but there are various graphical instruments that can be used to execute an EDA. So, first one among them is box plots. So, box plots are used whenever there is a need to summarize the data on an interval scale, like the ones on the stock market where ticks observed in one day may be represented in a single box, highlighting the lowest, highest, median, and outlier. Heat map. Then heat maps are the most often used for representation of the correlation between variable. Histogram. So the histogram is the graphical representation of numerical data that splits the data into ranges. The taller the bar, the greater the number of data points falling in that range. A good example here is the height data of a class of students. You will notice that the height data looks like a bell curve for a particular class, with most of the data lying within a certain range. So, in conclusion, I would like to say that this EDA is essential in analysis of massive data sets in order to be sure that we have the right data for the chosen correct statistical model. We certainly don't want to figure out a later state that the data is not a best fit for our statistical model. A good EDA must be performed before any data mining, data analysis, or data modeling occurs. That's all for today's presentation from my side. Thank you.